Making shoulders broader with body AI is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break. Let's see what we can accomplish in 10 minutes or less, starting now. Hello everyone, glad you could join us. Now, you've seen this picture before that I've edited. What we're going to do slightly different is with Andrew, and I'm sure he's going to love that I'm doing this, and in all seriousness, is we're going to take his shoulders. Again, he was in high school when we photographed this something like 4 or 5 years ago, and we're going to make his shoulders wider using body AI. All right, so let me show you how we're going to do this. So here's a picture of Andrew. Here's before. Looks good. And now it's different. You see how those shoulders just got a little wider? So let me discard all these changes. And we'll start from scratch. All right, so here we are. Instead of developing the image first, which I normally would do, let's just go down and work on the body positioning first, and then we'll go back and edit it. So I'm going to click on Body AI. Now, if I take the tool, the shape tool, to the right, it's going to make him look thinner, and it's going to squeeze everything in proportionally. Well, that's not what we want to do. We want the opposite effect, all right? So here we are. Let's give it a second to render before. Yep, it's not rendering yet. It's still not rendering. Let's give it one more. Oh, there we go. Before, and then after. There we go. Look at that. That's a total extreme just to show how body AI. Look how it warps everything in, and it doesn't affect things around it. Well, we want the opposite effect. So we're going to come all the way to this side, but now it did a phenomenal job on the shoulders. But look down here. This he would hate. This is where the masking tool comes in. Now, before the show, I did mention to our audience here that this is something we cannot do in Luminar AI yet. Well, we can't at all because that's a parametric editor. So here we're going to do this inside Neo. I'm going to come in and I want to keep the shoulders, maybe some of the arms here, but I have to delicately come in here and I want to brush. I went the wrong way. So let me invert it. There we go. And we're going to erase the effect in this area here, down in here. So all of this can get erased. And look what it's doing now. Now, here's the issue we have to be careful on. This side's not that bad, but notice over here I'm getting like a ghosting effect. And that's because what I need to do is get the brush size smaller and get right in tight and start erasing this area is here. Now, like I said about the arm, we have to make a decision here. If I include this, his arms are going to look massively huge and unproportional. So I want to sculpture it and make sure that I come up in tight and get rid of it here. And actually, I'm going to go back in and paint it in. There we go. That's what I needed to do. So if you're not getting the effect the correct way, because again, we're doing this, it's like looking in a mirror. We're doing it backwards. Just switch between the painting in and the erase if you're not getting the desired results you're looking for. So I fixed the arm, but then I messed this up again. So we'll take care of that in just a moment. Let's see up in here. All right, that area there I have to fix again too. So now, I was painting. Now I'm going to come back to erase and carefully come in here and spend time getting rid of some of this area like this. All right, so we're doing a great job, but this area here, we have to finesse it better. There we go. All right, and notice like I'm battling between the arm and the side because, again, this is what it's looking like. And if his arm wasn't touching that piece, that fabric, this would be so much easier to do. But since his arm is touching it, we're gonna have to figure out how to split the difference between the two. So I know I can get away with this here. Yep, yeah, so and by doing what we're doing, depending on the size of the brush and depending on where we're heading, using a mouse is not the easiest thing to use. It's better to use a pen if you have it. In this case, I don't. So, here we go. Earlier I did this. It wasn't giving me as much difficulty, but it's definitely something we have to experiment with. And I'll continue. And what I'm going to do for all of you guys is I'm going to include this into the exercise file that you could get online, and I'll let you guys practice it and finesse it. So I'm going to do something because I have all of you watching. Let's try this, if this will work. I'm going to embrace that piece, but because of that arm, I'll embrace that piece, but then I'm going to have to sculpture this here a little bit more. Oh, you're killing me here. There we go. There we go. All right. So, well, what I end up having to do here is probably sculpture that to bring it in just a little bit. So it's going to look a little, there we go. And then again, I would continue with the rest of this area here. Do I dare? Let me try. And like I said before, it's trial and error on it, whether you're painting or erasing. But it's like I said, it's like looking into a mirror because we're actually doing the opposite of what we want. And let's see if I'm getting it. There we go. All right, so the trouble spot that was really challenging was if their arm is touching the side. There we go. So if the arm is touching, like it is here, that's going to give us an issue when we expand it because you're expanding this section and the arm, and we have to be very careful on that. All right? So again, I would go back through and finesse it just a little bit more, but I don't want to waste a lot of your time because you get the idea of what we're doing. And this is one of those things, and again, you would fix this area here. This is one of those things where I like to get in quick, bam, 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 throw out my my edits, and then get out of the program as quick as I can because I'd rather be doing photography. Here is one of those times where now you're a graphic artist. You're going to go in, sculpture the things you want, and spend a whole lot of time. So I'm going to overlook this for now, and I'm asking you to do the same thing because I don't want to sit there and waste a lot of time. But here is I'm going to quickly do my sport. Is dramatic, as you know, is my favorite tool for this look. And I want to show you one other thing I learned doing this project. I'm going to dial back. Notice again, I clicked on the advance. I dialed back on the brightness. And I don't want it to be as saturated as I normally do with some of these images. So I like where that's there. And now, structure AI is definitely going to help us with that smoke. And we're going to boost up the structure. There we go. And we have that set. Let me continue with vignette. And then we're going to change the color of that smoke. And I came up with a better way of doing it. So let's bring that all the way in. And bring this down. A little more right about there. All right. So now I'm sculpting it the way I want. Now let's come down to the toning tool. And we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to apply the tone. So I'm focusing on the smoke. And I want that smoke to be like a bluish tint. Let's go to highlights too. There we go. Oh, right about there. Oh, good. I like that. Now, here's what we're going to do a little bit differently. I'll use the mask again, but instead of painting in the smoke, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase it in a small area right here on his face. So, because the color of the smoke would reflect through the light onto his arms, but not so much here. And the rest of it's not that big of a deal. Look at that. So instead of trying to go back through and painting on the smoke, I did the opposite and instead erased the effect on him. All right, and let's come back up here to develop. Bring back some of the shadows. And all I'm focusing on now is the bottom half of the image. Paint in the effect down here. And once we get our tool coming in, the gradient mask, this would be so much easier. But for now, we have to use the paintbrush. And notice I'm leaving his tribute to his grandmother alone. So we want this to come up here. You know what? I'm going to go a little bit higher. There we go. And now, erase. And let's lower the opacity because I want this to be a gradient effect. There we go. Coming up through. And on the grandmother, same thing, we got the gradient effect. And there we have it. Look at the change on how that's bringing more attention to him and his tribute to his grandmother. So here we are. Here's the original. Then him with wider shoulders, Andrew with wider shoulders, and then applying that special effect. All right? So unmute your mics and let's have a discussion on it. Good. Nick said he never thought of simulating the gradient effect that way. Now keep in mind, people watching this on a rebroadcast, they can't read the chats. So if you could just unmute your mic and make your comments, because that was a good comment, Mike, or Nick, on never thinking about simulating the gradient effect. But that's why we have the gradient tool. So once the gradient tool comes in and the circular gradient, or radial gradient rather, then we don't have to do that. But this is just another way for us to work on that. Any other questions?
People say there's a lot of ways to skin the cats. That was pretty neat.
Okay, but Nick, poor Piper heard that, and Piper just ran out of the room. So let's not talk about skinning cats in front of my kittens. All right, fire away, Nick.
Just out of curiosity, when you were trying to erase that portion of the shirt or the arm, if you had reduced the exposure all the way down, then you could have just painted, if it got dark enough,
exactly,
you could have painted it over that area?
Yep. So right now you're right. So what we can do, and that's what we're talking about, finessing. So this area right here is a pain in the neck. So you're 100% accurate. Good job. So if I were to come in here and let's say do this to it, now come in with the paintbrush and I want to paint the effect. I'm going to go down here for a minute. there, just so I can at least, I just clicked in an area that's not going to make a difference. Now I can actually see what I'm going to paint. And I guess I could just increase the exposure to see it. But you're right. So now what I can do is if we come in here, yep, and make sure it's at 100%. There we go. There we go. Now, there it is, Nick. Thanks. Nick comes to the rescue. This is what you were talking about, right, Nick?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so look what we're doing here. And see how that piece is being a little temperamental? Well, bip. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of the shadows. Now it's dark. And then you can do the same thing here, like Phil was saying, lower the brush. And then just sculpture.
Smaller size.
Yep, or zoom in, or get better glasses. There we go. All right, there we have it.
How small can you make the brush?
That's a small right
Can you
here.
go down to 1 pixel?
Yep, yeah. So so remember, we're not dealing with pixels. So 10 is the lowest, is the smallest. But keep in mind, if I zoom in, okay, no, yeah, right here. Now I can increase the brush size because now I'm able to see a little bit more. Good. And you can spend, 10, look at that. Oh, much better, guys.
Hours.
Yeah, you can spend hours on this, and you have to decide, is it worth that much? If this were for a competition, or let's say this was something he wanted at his grandmother's funeral, by all means, I would spend that extra time doing that for him. But if it's just going to be shown on Instagram or Facebook for, 10 seconds, I'm not going to waste my time. So look at that. That little contribution Nick made makes a big difference. Good job, Nick.
That was a big contribution.
Yeah, so it's the other way around. Yeah, big contribution made a big difference. There we go. Thank you, Phil.
That's right.
Politically correct. All right. Any other questions on this? Great, everyone. So, fire away.
No, just was saying you did a great job on this finale. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
You can see the effectiveness of it as you were going along. Really appreciate it. Good job.
Thanks. And because a lot of people, Body AI got such a, when it came out, I liked it. But man, did so many people start complaining, you're body shaming people. And even in our own group, when I was creating some tutorials, they would say, well, no. Don't use that image because now it looks like we're body shaming. And it's not body shaming. I'll tell you what, I have that picture of Carl. When Carl comes back on Wednesday, I'm going to show you how he edited Carl's picture, even his hair. He said he loved his photo, but what he doesn't like, who is that? Yeah, but what he doesn't like is his hair's all messed up. So using the example we did yesterday, I fixed it, but I did shape his body a little bit. He'll be happy that I did that.
That's right.
So
That's right.
the thing is, you have to decide, if this were for a model shoot that we were trying to sell the model for products, then I wouldn't do the body shaping. And the reason for that is, as a photographer, I would be upset if I looked at the comp card and I picked this person for whatever reason, and they showed up either, like in Andrew's case, 15 pounds heavier, with his shoulders out wide, and he shows up and his shoulders are small, I'd be upset that, oh man, that's false advertisement. I put this person in this position for that particular look. So with that body AI, along with skin retouching, it's one of those things you have to use selectively. And again, I would communicate with your customer, your client, or your family member, whoever you're doing this for. And if they tell you, have at it, do whatever you want, then I would do exactly what I did with Andrew. If Andrew were to say, no, I want this appear so when I could show my kids 20 years from now or 10 years from now, I show my kids, I want them to see, look how thin daddy was when he played football. Now look how daddy is now. So that's one of those things where, you have to decide, is it a image for prosperity's sake, meaning it's a reference in time, or is it for work of art? In this case, Andrew's going to love it, and I guarantee when I send this to him, he's going to be posting it all over the place. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, you can watch this rebroadcast on Insiders, at the Skylum Insiders. All right? I'll see you at the next coffee break.